Vladimir Putin, the man who the White House has now entrusted to disarm Syria, has a message for America. You're not exceptional. Stop meddling in foreign conflicts. Comrade Vlad said he carefully studied the president's remarks in an op-ed in the New York Times. Now, the president ignored questions about it from reporters at the White House today, but Jay Carney said this.
Both in his op-ed and in the statements and actions that we've seen from President Putin and his foreign minister, it is clear that President Putin has invested his credibility in transferring Assad's chemical weapons to international control and ultimately destroying them. This is significant. Russia is Assad's patron and protector, and the world will note whether Russia can follow through on the commitments that it's made.
All right, so Dana Perino, my question is two-part. First, I want you to give an honest answer, you're always honest, about, let's pretend you're in the White House. You open up the New York Times or you get it sent to you late last night and you see this editorial. One, I want you to tell everybody what you would think, honestly. And two, how would you advise the president if you were in the White House now?
Let me go backwards. So I think that what Jay Carney was saying was basically what the National Security Advisor and the Council have basically said. This is the best thing that we can do. Don't take the bait. Don't just make Putin be in the driver's seat if that's where he wants to be and try to push him to do the right thing. So even though I think Jay Carney probably would have liked to have said something different, that's what he had to say. If I would have opened that up last night, I don't think I would have been mad at the New York Times, because I understand business. Okay, so they want a lot of eyeballs to go to their website. They want to sell a lot of papers. They want to get a ton of attention. I understand that. That's a business. What bothers me is the PR professionals that have been working for the Russians for years. And I can't imagine, first of all, the PR firm said that Vladimir Putin wrote that himself. I've briefed Vladimir Putin before. He cannot speak English that well. Okay, so somebody, an American, sat down and wrote for him. What I cannot believe is that this is a guy that has invaded a sovereign country, uses energy as a weapon, has thrown journalists out of buildings, sells weapons to Iran, persecutes gays and lesbians with impunity, and the New York Times doesn't write a companion editorial to say, you're going to see on the opposing page something from Vladimir Putin, here's what we think about it. They just let it go, and it was embarrassing. I don't think the White House doesn't need to worry about it too much, but I do think it was embarrassing for us.
And Eric, don't you think this is just another example of Putin playing with the United States of America? Now he's using PR, because specifically in the editorial, he goes against military action, he quotes the Pope, he pretends to be this religious guy, and we have put him in the diplomatic driver's seat. We've never put pressure on Putin. If we didn't put it on him before, what leverage do we have now?
I have to tell you, I think, look, I don't disagree with the New York Times for running the piece. Dana's 100% right, though. Do another editorial that takes the other side, that counters Putin's claims. But they ran it, and they were smart to run it. But my problem is that the same people who are critical of Putin are the ones looking for bombs and boots on the ground. And, you know, the Lindsey Graham's, John McCain's, and some of the others. The fact is, Vladimir Putin played us. He outmaneuvered. Rand Paul said Putin outmaneuvered President Obama. And I agree, Putin outmaneuvered the American people. Look, it's a game of high-stakes international chess, so I put together a big old chess board right here quickly. But somehow, here's king and queen, President Obama and John Kerry, and the bishop, who shouldn't be able to do this, checkmated the king and queen with the help of one little pawn. So the bishop takes out the king. Somehow that happened. It should never have happened. But, Bob, I guess when you're playing with this kind of king, maybe something like that may end up happening.
Where did you get that stuff from?
Oxen Friends.
Yeah, we have a huge prop budget. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Have you spoken to the White House? You don't have to answer it, but answer honestly. You see this editorial running in the New York Times. You're back in the White House. What's your first response?
I think it's fine. I mean, I think, look, first of all, Putin didn't play anybody. This was a John Kerry screw-up, and he picked it up, and Putin did exactly the right thing. Putin and the Russians do not have influence in the Middle East beyond Iran and Syria. They have been trying to get it since they were knocked out of Egypt a long time ago. And so now I think let him do it. Let him go out front. Now, the question is he not going to do it? I mean, is he going to go through all this and not going to do it? I think it's not in his interest not to do it. I think the real question is going to be, are you going to be able to get a line in there that says, if you don't get rid of these chemical weapons, the United States and others can use weapons to get rid of them. That's going to be the issue. But I think he's vested in it. I really do.
Brian Kilmeade, this language about the United States not being exceptional, this was included in the editorial, okay? Where have I heard that kind of language before, that we're not exceptional, that we shouldn't be involving ourselves in these foreign conflicts? You're
100% right. And by the way, it's President Obama.
That's right.
And as early as back as Cairo, he's indicated that it really doesn't work there. Everyone thinks their country is the most important. So if we're exceptional, so is every other country. But here's the thing. Let's put that aside for a second, and let's see that President Obama says that's not going to work for me politically, and that's not actually the truth. This is actually an opportunity. Because if you look at the responses, it's very rare. All the responses go across party lines. Senator Menendez says he wanted to vomit. John Boehner says, I'm insulted. Now you have Jay Carney come forward and say, retort back how we are exceptional and what we don't do. This is an opportunity to pick out a common enemy. Our common enemy is Vladimir Putin. We are all insulted as a country. So if I'm President Obama and I want to play this chess piece, my chess piece is I'm going to let this play out. But I'm remembered that you called out our country, not the Democratic Party.
Why is Putin our enemy? Can you tell me that?
Because he has called out the fundamental things about our country that we have pride in, which is the exceptionalism. By the way, Mitt Romney nailed it when he said they are a
Show me one place where the influence of Russia has gained in the United States.
Selling and giving
Iran and Syria.
Iran, we never had it in Iran. If you remember, they took
That's their biggest customer.
They have given
I know, but it's been that way for 30 years. If you guys would just pay some attention to what happens in the Middle East, they used to be strong in Egypt. They were not anymore.
Excuse me, if I would pay attention to what's happening in the Middle East,
yes.
If this president would pay attention to what's happening in the Middle East. We know what the Russians have been doing for decades, and President Obama has said nothing. He has not pushed back.
What have they been trying to do?
No, I take that back, Bob. He did say something to him. On an open mic, he said, I'll have more flexibility. That shows naivety.